Have you ever noticed how emotions can be both your best and worst guides in life? It's because they can get complicated, which is why learning how to use emotions wisely takes time, practice, and attention. So, let's start with a question. Do you think you make decisions based on reason or emotion? Research suggests that although we often think we're operating from reason, our emotions play a much larger role in our life and in our decisions we make than we realize. Emotions determine who we're attracted to, what kind of subjects in school we like or don't like, and what kind of music we listen to. Emotions help us to relate to other people and are involved in every single decision we make, because that is how our brains are wired. Even math problems are often linked to emotion. Let's see how that works with a short exercise. Start by noticing your breath, how it feels to inhale, and then exhale. Inhale, and then exhale. Now, I will call out some simple addition problems. Some will have right answers, and some will have wrong answers. Notice how your body feels after each kind of answer. You can close your eyes if you think that will help you concentrate. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 6 plus 1 equals 7. 4 plus 4 equals 8. 2 plus 3 equals 16. 5 plus 1 equals 24. 8 plus 2 equals 1. Did you notice any differences in how your emotions or body responded to the right answers versus the wrong answers? Even though emotions help shape who we are, sometimes they can take over. Like when you can't stop feeling stressed out or depressed. In this video, we'll talk about essential skills for emotional regulation. We'll start with learning to identify and label emotions and how to evaluate their intensity. Learning to regulate our emotions is fundamental to being healthy. We'll also explore mindfulness and how to increase tolerance for uncomfortable emotions to better handle hard times. Using your observer self, a central tool of mindfulness, is an important part of being able to handle uncomfortable emotions. Your observer self helps you gain perspective, stay in your window of tolerance, and develop emotional intelligence, all skills that make life much easier to handle and even more fun. What are emotions? Emotions can be defined as a combination of complex thoughts and physical sensations that are automatic responses to internal and external events or stimuli. Simply said, to have emotions, both your mind and your body play a part. For example, before taking a test, you might experience the physical fluttering in your stomach as the emotion anxiety. Emotions can let us know when something is wrong and can also guide us towards passion and meaning in life. When is the last time you remember having butterflies in your stomach? Or you blushed? Got goosebumps? Or felt as if you were punched in the stomach because you were rejected? Now, what do you remember about how your body reacted in those situations and what you were thinking? In all those situations, both your body and your mind had a reaction or contributed to make up the overall experience. Emotional awareness. Often, we feel like our emotions creep up on us without realizing it. Suddenly, we're furious, panicked, or so overwhelmed we can't function. The emotions were intensifying and we didn't even notice until it was too late. But when you're more tuned into your body and mind, you'll discover you can identify a feeling a lot earlier in this process. It's like noticing you're getting hungry and eating something before you get to the point of feeling like you're starving. To develop your awareness of emotions, it helps to know a little first about where they come from. There are a couple of main processes that create emotions. One is called top-down processing, as in starting from your head and moving down to your body. Top-down processing occurs when your thinking affects what you're feeling emotionally. For instance, you might feel scared just even thinking about suddenly encountering a snake on a trail. In that moment, stress hormones pulse through your body at that thought, as if you actually saw a snake in real life. In top-down processing, becoming more mindful of your thoughts can help you be more aware of how you're feeling. The other way emotions get generated is the reverse of top-down processing, and it is called bottom-up processing. It's where the information moves from the body up to the mind. In bottom-up processing, the nerves in your body send information about a physical sensation up to your brain. That information includes sensing hunger, your body temperature, and if you need to go to the bathroom. Awareness of these bodily sensations is called interoception. When the mind becomes aware of these signals from the body, it generates emotions. Interoception is important because many times physical sensations are clues to how you feel emotionally. Like if your chest feels tight, it could mean you're feeling scared, in love, or both. Think of it this way. If you feel an actual snake slithering over your bare foot, your body will send that sensation or signal up to the brain, which can interpret it as dangerous and cause you to feel fear or panic. Likewise, you can help yourself feel better by changing how your body feels. Sinking into a warm bath or a hot tub might be one way. Going for a walk and getting exercise are others. In reality, top-down and bottom-up processes aren't separate. You can actually think something, which then changes how your body feels. Signals from the body travel up to the brain with new information, changing how you feel emotionally. What's most important to know, though, is that research has linked interoception to your ability to both figure out what you're feeling and help yourself when you feel overwhelmed. We can get better at interoception by practicing using our observer self.
Emotions come and go. What do emotions have to do with mindfulness? Once we get more in touch with the experience of emotions and how they relate to how the body is feeling, we notice something probably counterintuitive. Emotions come and go. They're actually not permanent. In fact, they're constantly changing. This level of awareness is crucial because if we think emotions will never change or can get stuck forever, we can get more depressed or anxious. Your observer self can help you use interoception to figure out when you should be guided by your emotions and when you should allow them to come and go without reacting to them. I know it can be hard to believe that tuning into your emotions can be helpful, especially when you're feeling really bad or upset. But we'll do some activities for demonstration as a starting point. With practice, they can be used when you're stressed or depressed and are convinced that you'll feel a certain way forever. But first, it's important to say that the idea that emotions are always changing does not erase the fact that some people have significant levels of depression or anxiety that need to be addressed with a mental health professional. We do hope, though, that by practicing mindfulness and noticing the fluctuating nature of emotions, you can get through hard times, even when you feel like they will never change. To improve interoception and better understand our emotions, it's important to practice exploring them when you're not in a state of overwhelm, but when you're relaxed and more open to being curious. In the two practices we'll do together in this video, surfing emotions and hand on heart, we'll explore the awareness of how emotions come and go, and how you can help soothe yourself when emotions feel intense. Let's start with the first practice, surfing emotions. If at any time this activity feels too intense, please come out of it and focus on something else, like an event you're looking forward to or a happy memory. This is a way to regulate your emotions. Take a moment to sit quietly, closing your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, or leave them open if you prefer. Now, move your attention inward. We're going to explore what emotions look like and feel like in your body. Take a moment to notice any sensation you feel inside that feels like an emotion. It may be heat, a vibration, or a fluttering. Or you may not feel anything at all at first. If you're not feeling anything, it's okay to just focus on noticing your breath. And maybe try again another time. It can take practice to notice sensations and feelings. If you have noticed something, take a moment to observe each emotion or sensation. See if you can silently describe them. For example, where is the emotion or sensation in the body? Does it move around? Is it big or small? You might notice that the emotion changes as you observe it. Sometimes you might feel it more strongly, and sometimes it may fade. See if you can imagine being at the top of the emotion or sensation as it gets intense. And then imagine surfing down it as it lessens. Keep watching and experiencing the sensations and emotions and noticing what comes up and when they change. If any emotion feels overwhelming, it's okay to open your eyes and refocus attention to something in the room around you. Reflections on the practice. Take a moment. Where did you feel or notice your emotions in your body? Did the emotions rise and fall in intensity? Sometimes, it feels as if we are stuck in an emotion and it will never end. We want to develop an awareness instead that emotions are not as solid as they seem. All emotions ebb and flow with time. They can change at any moment. This is especially helpful to remember during the difficult times. Let's look closer into what is happening in the body to communicate those emotions. Anatomy and physiology. Emotions from bottom up or top down. One of the main ways our brain knows how our body is feeling is through the vagus nerve, a bundle of nerves that look like a tree with roots. The roots touch most of our internal organs, including the heart, lungs, and stomach. Similar to how tree roots send nutrients to the treetops, the vagus sends signals from our organs to the brain. In fact, most of the signals, about 80 to 90%, are flowing up from the body to the brain. For example, when you have butterflies in your stomach, your brain decides whether you're feeling nervous or it's love. As the main component of the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve plays an important role in helping you slow down and relax. When we do things that help our body relax, the vagus nerve carries signals to the brain that indicate comfort, and your brain can interpret these as calm. Often, trying to think our way out of overwhelm, telling ourselves just to calm down, doesn't work. Instead, you can use the body as an instrument to change how you feel. You can use bottom-up processing to your benefit. Like that warm bath, sitting down in the warm water sends signals to the brain that the body is feeling more at ease. The brain can then interpret these signals as feeling calm. Other activities you might equate with relaxation work too. Stretching, dancing, walking in nature, cuddling with your pet. In all these situations, the vagus sends messages to the brain, which helps it, and you, know that you're relaxed. With bottom-up processing, you can see that your nervous system responds automatically to the environment without us having to fight our thoughts. By doing something calming, we automatically calm our minds, which can be easier than trying to use our thoughts to calm our bodies, and easier than trying to tell ourselves to just calm down.
You are not your emotions. Sometimes the brain seems to have a mind of its own, doesn't it? And in a way it does. With mindfulness, we realize we're not actually our emotions. Instead, by examining our emotions with curiosity rather than avoiding them, we can understand more clearly how to relate to them, take better care of ourselves, and feel better in the long run. Dante really wanted a new job. He had worked in fast food for the last 2 years after school, but was really hoping to get into auto mechanics. His dad connected him with a friend who owned a repair shop and who said he would interview Dante. As a part of the interview, Dante would have to do an oil change and tire rotation in front of 3 people to show his skills. As the day got closer, Dante began to question his abilities to get through these tasks. He was an introvert and hated public speaking and performing in front of others. He imagined freezing and losing all ability to think, which had happened to him before in these type of situations. A couple days before the interview, Dante started to get stomach aches and couldn't sleep. He was also agitated and found himself snapping at his family. He began to think about canceling the interview. This is the power of emotions. Here again, you can see the interrelationship between emotions, thoughts, and the body. Dante's fear was showing up in his body and was so intense he was considering giving up on his goal. Emotions can inhibit us from doing what we want. Being able to take a step back and use your observer self to examine your emotions allows for some perspective. Recognizing that you're more than your emotions is key to a good mental health. Mindfulness helps us get a little distance from our emotions so we can observe them and then decide what to do. This really highlights the fact that you're not your anxiety, your anger, or your excitement. You have anxiety, anger, or excitement. It's something you can observe about yourself, so it's actually more accurate to say, I feel angry instead of I am angry, or I feel anxious versus I am anxious. It's also really helpful not to label yourself or others as an angry person or an anxious person, because there's a lot more to you than that. Basically, if you can describe what you're feeling, then there's more to you than the feeling. You're also the observer of the feeling. So, for example, if I'm feeling hopeless about something, I can say to myself, I notice I feel hopeless. The observer self recognizes, in that moment, I feel hopeless, but that doesn't define who I am. Okay. The observer self recognizes, in that moment, I feel hopeless, but that doesn't define who I am. My observer self acknowledges the feeling is there and that it can come and go. In other words, you can still have a feeling, but also not identify completely with it. The feeling is not who you are, and it's not your identity. If it were, you would always be like that. But we know it's not true, because feelings come and go. Nobody is one feeling all the time. When you have this perspective, you realize you can listen to your emotions and they can guide you, or you can decide not to listen to them. It is normal and adaptive for intense events to affect your body's ability to emotionally regulate, and we want to make sure you have the skills to help yourself heal. Everyone's different, and some people feel emotions more or less intensely than others. And events that happen in our life also affect our emotions. And there are periods in your life around the age of 3, adolescence, and midlife when you often have more intense emotions because of what's happening in your brain and body. Adolescence and early adulthood are times when most people Adolescence and early adulthood are times when most people feel them more intensely. There is plenty of research that shows that understanding emotions is related to overall health and well-being. But it takes time and practice to get to know your unique emotional responses and how to use them wisely. To be able to answer questions like, why did I react that way? What is making me so agitated? How do I communicate this effectively? Do I need to do anything to resolve these feelings? Reflection. Am I good at communicating my emotions? Do I understand my emotions? Am I someone who feels emotions intensely? Emotional intelligence as a tool for emotional regulation. Have you heard of emotional intelligence, or EQ? It's different from IQ, but may be just as important in life. For example, people with higher emotional intelligence have better relationships, mental health, and career success. High EQ also contributes to stress management, empathy, and motivation. Luckily, emotional intelligence is a set of skills that can be learned. There are a set of at least 3 components of these skills. First is the ability to be aware of emotions and name them. Next is the ability to regulate your emotions and help others regulate theirs. Third is the ability to use emotions for problem solving. In this video, we mostly explore the first 2 and give you examples of how to apply these skills. We'll talk more in depth about the third, problem solving, in a later video on developing a relationship with your thoughts. Name it to tame it. Name it to tame it is a phrase coined by Daniel Siegel, a psychiatrist at UCLA. It relates to the first level of emotional intelligence, the ability to be aware of emotions and name them. Research shows that naming our emotions has the power to tame them and lower their intensity. Describing how we feel in words help us gain a little perspective, increasing our awareness and enabling us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Think about it. If we were nothing but our feelings, we wouldn't be able to describe them to someone else, right? It's because we can watch our feelings that we can put them into words. That means we're more than our emotions. The observer self gives us a little space between ourselves and our feelings. Another related skill is emotional granularity. Granularity means being specific, like at the level of grains of sand. Applied to emotions, it means being as specific as you can when you describe emotions. For example, feeling stressed can mean a lot of different things. There's feeling timid or slightly worried, all the way up to feeling terrified or panicked.
Why is it important to be so specific when describing emotions? Just like with Name It to Tame It, research has found that practicing emotional granularity helps calm the nervous system and reduce the intensity of emotions. In one study, researchers recruited participants who had arachnophobia, a phobia of spiders. They told the participants to walk toward a tarantula, but they could stop walking at any time. Each participant was then instructed to do one of 4 things: label their anxiety, think differently about the spiders so they seemed less frightening, distract themselves from the anxiety, or do nothing. Later, the researchers invited the participants to return to the lab and walk toward the tarantula again. They measured how much the participants' palms were sweating, which is an indication of anxiety, and how close they were able to get to the tarantula. Those who were instructed to label their emotions had the least physiological response and were able to get closest. In addition, the more emotions they could name, the less reactive they were and the closer they got to the tarantula. In other research, practicing emotional granularity reduced the likelihood of acting aggressively. In other research, practicing emotional granularity reduced the likelihood of acting aggressively. And people with higher emotional granularity may experience longer-term health benefits. They see doctors less often, need less medication, and are hospitalized for shorter periods of time than others with the same illness. Level of emotion versus level of problem. Emotions can feel big in the moment, and one way we can manage them is to practice comparing the level of a problem to the level of an emotion. This relates to the third component of emotional intelligence: emotional regulation and problem solving. Think of a night when you went to bed and didn't sleep, worrying and maybe stuck thinking about a test or an issue with a friend. Your body may have reacted with the maximum amount of distress, as if it was encountering a life or death situation. In the middle of the night, based on how agitated you were, you might have rated the problem a 5 out of 5. This is an example of your thoughts telling your body you're in danger, or top-down processing. You're lying in bed, totally safe and sound, but are experiencing high levels of stress, imagining a worst-case scenario. Other examples where we feel intensely, but the actual level of the problem is 1 or 0, include being frozen with fear over public speaking, getting mad when your family keeps flipping the channels, feeling embarrassed about a comment you made in class, or feeling devastated by throwing an air ball during a basketball game. In all these cases, the feeling may be much bigger than the problem, which is not life-threatening. You are physically safe, the problem itself will pass, and you won't remember it either immediately or in a few days. We all get caught in our emotions this way, and by tapping the observer self, we can identify when we are having these kinds of feelings and take a moment to examine the level of problem. We can take a step back to assess both the emotion and the problem. Though we definitely don't want to minimize real danger or life events that need our attention, we want to highlight that at times, what we're worried about isn't life-threatening. And even if there is a big conflict in a relationship, which is fairly inevitable in all relationships, you will probably be better able to stay grounded and come up with some ways to handle the situation if you were able to just stop overthinking and you just got some sleep.
Differentiating the levels of emotion and problem. The scale in this figure can help you learn to differentiate between the levels. You can rewrite these according to your own culture and values because everyone's lives are different, and real versus conditioned threats are different. The following offers a few examples. Level 1, momentary problem. You won't remember it tomorrow or maybe even 10 minutes from now. Level 2, a little problem. You might remember it a week from now. Level 3, a medium problem, an event that could affect you for weeks to months. Level 4, big problem, an event that could affect you for many months or years. Level 5, there is an immediate danger to yourself or others. You may need to call 911. Something to note is that some issues like racism and other forms of discrimination may fall into more than one category. For example, a racial microaggression may seem momentary, but can also feel like a big problem related to the issue of racism in society as a whole. Separating thoughts from emotions and noticing the level of the emotion versus the problem can be extremely helpful when your fears are not at the level you imagine. You may just be thinking about something but not actually experiencing it, and not be consciously aware of this distinction. When you're more aware, for example, that emotions can be a 5, but that the problem itself may be a 2 or a 3, you can better calm yourself and respond to the situation. Doing this can help you increase your emotional capacity to deal with difficulties in life. Rather than reacting to every emotion, you have the perspective to respond to things that really need your attention.